Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Bava Kamma daf Zion. We are on the bottom of uh, daf Vav Amabet. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up. 7 lines up. 6b 4 in the art scroll. And yesterday we introduced the debate between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva regarding what is meant when we say that you need to pay from the best. And so the Rabbi Yishmael says that you just simply look at the quality of the damaged party's land and say, okay, whatever that person's best is, that's what you need to give. So even if you may have property, Stan, that is worth $100 a square foot and $50 a square foot. If the best property of the damaged parties is $50 a square foot, you only need to give him $50 a square foot property, if that's your preference.
What happens if there's a disagreement? Is there a third party to determine?
To determine what the value is.
You disagree with me.
So yes, I believe that the Beit Din would determine what the value is. But remember, in all of these cases, we're paying the damaged party something that is worth the amount. The point is that from the Gemara's perspective, and that will be an item that we will see today, from the Gemara's perspective, when it comes to real estate, we're concerned that you can't move real estate. And so as a result, we want you to have very attractive real estate for you to be able to sell. And so as a result, we'll make it so that you get the best kind of real estate, because the understanding is that that's going to be easier to sell, easier to move in the sales perspective. Okay, well, let's take a look. So that and then after we dealt with that, and of course Rabbi Akiva's point of view is no, you have to give based on the best of the perpetrator, of the person who's paying the damage. Now, when he said that, his language was unclear. What he said was the Torah only comes to tell us that we collect the damage from the best. Again, not particularly clear. But what we said, which we understood to mean that we collect from the superior fields of the person who's liable. And then Rabbi Akiva said, and certainly when it comes to hektish. Now, for the first part of today, we're going to focus on that last clause of when, and certainly when it comes to hektish, kal v'chomer lehektish. So that's what we're going to focus on. So let's take a look. Again, 7 lines up. First word on the line is Rabbi Akiva Omer, lo ba kasuv ela likvosan lenazikin min ha'idus. The Torah only came to tell us that you have to pay from the best. And again, whose best that was unclear, but clearly he was arguing with Rabbi Yishmael, and we'll come back to that thought in a few minutes. The kal v'chomer lehektish, and certainly when it comes to hektish. So my kal v'chomer lehektish, what exactly did we mean by this kal v'chomer lehektish? So Torah didan l'Torah dehektish, if you want to say that it was some private person's ox that gored an ox that belongs to hektish, shor re'ehu amarachmana, the Torah tells us that when it comes to paying for the damage of your shore, it's referring to the ox when it gores the ox of somebody else. The low shore shall hektish, and by implication, not the shore of hektish. And Rashi tells us that we won't only apply this to the concept of goring, but even other concepts as well. If we take a look at Rashi, we'll just do the beginning of this Rashi. It's a Rashi that begins about 12 lines up in the narrow lines of Rashi, and we're towards the bottom of Bava Mabet. Shor ra'eyu amar rachmana below shor dehektish. De'im nagach shor shel hektish. Because if your ox gores the ox of hektish, pater, you are exempt, because the owner, there's no real owner of that other ox, and so therefore you don't have to pay. And the same thing would be true with your fire. If your fire were to burn hektish, the same thing would be true if your pit were to damage hektish, and the same thing would be true if either you damaged hektish or hektish was damaged through the concept of shame, through eating. She mazik as a hektish putter. That if in fact you do damage to hektish, you will be exempt. So that's where we'll pause in that Rashi. But the bottom line is that it seems like you would be exempt. So therefore, that cannot be it. Now we will come back to that explanation in a moment, and we will undermine it. But in the meantime, we're going to offer answer number one, and therefore, Ella Omer Hare Alai Mana Levede Kabayas. It must be that what we're talking about is when somebody obligates themselves, they say they want to give $100 to Hektish, and so as a result, now they have that obligation, and so the treasurer of Hektish comes to their yard and says, "Okay, I'm going to take now $100 of your best field," and so therefore, that's what we must be talking about. But that doesn't make sense either. And so the Gemara asks, Lo yehe ela bal chov. In that situation, as we're at the very bottom line of Bava Mabet, the person who is collecting on behalf of Hektish, they are no different than any other creditor. And they should just be treated like a normal creditor. And what is the rule with the normal creditor as we turn to Zion Amud Aleph? Ubal chov beveininus. And the answer is that unlike a damaged party, where a damaged party collects from the best, no, when it comes to a creditor, somebody you just owe money to because you borrowed money or you did a business deal and now you owe them money, well, that person, they only get to collect from Baininus. They only get to collect from average property. The Chitema Sub Rabbi Akiva Kol Bachov Nami Be'idis. Oh, maybe you'll want to say that, okay, that's what the rule is according to other Tanaim. But Rabbi Akiva is a Tana, and he can argue with that position, and he can say that actually every Baal Chov gets to collect from Idis. But But if that were true, the whole concept of the Kal V'chomer that he said, again, remember, Rabbi Akiva said that we're going to collect from the best, and certainly when it comes to Hektish. But that entire Kal V'chomer, Ma'alaval Kov Shekain, Yupa Koko Benizakin. But that is confusing because when it comes to a regular creditor, their power increases when it comes to being damaged. But Tomer behektish, can you use a Kal V'chomer to learn to hektish? Hektish doesn't have that quality, right? When it comes to a regular creditor, if they're a creditor because of a loan, they get middle stuff. If they're a creditor because you damaged them, your ox damaged them, they get the best stuff. But when it comes to the treasury, we're going to say that when it comes to the treasury, you're going to get, even if we say that you get the best stuff according to according to Rabbi Akiva, also with respect to a Baal Chov, when it comes to the treasury, when it comes to actual damage, you get nothing. So the treasury position is not, in fact, the Kal V'chomer from other positions. So Tomer behektish, Shehura Kocho b'nezakin, it has a weaker power. And of course, a Kal V'chomer is all about if you can lift 10 pounds, then you can lift 5 pounds. But when it comes to a Baal Chov can lift 10 pounds, and we're trying to now lift 15 pounds. And 15 pounds isn't a Kal V'chomer. You can't learn from something where you need more power rather than less power. So la'olam, so as a result, our first answer is rejected, and we go back to a different answer. We offer our second answer. And our second answer is la'olam de naga Torah didan la Torah de hektish. We're going to say that really we are talking about a situation where a private person's ox gored the ox of hektish. The kakashyalach shorei eyu amarachmana below shor shel hektish. And you'll ask the question that we said just a moment ago, that we said that when it comes to Shorei Ehu, that's supposed to teach us that if your ox gores the ox of the treasury of the Beis Hamikdash, then you don't have to pay anything. So Rabbi Akiva Savar La Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. It's because Rabbi Akiva doesn't agree with that drasha. He says, like Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. Well, what does Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh says? Good question. So I'll quote a brisa for you. Titania, the Rabbi, as we learned in the brisa, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh Omer, shor shel hektish, shenaga shor shel hedyos. If the damage goes from the shore that belongs to hektish to your shore, well, then you're out of luck. Putter. Yeah, the base of Mikdash is going to be exempt. But shor shel hedyos, shenaga shor shel hektish. But when it comes to the gore, the ox of a person who gores the ox that belongs to the Beit Hamikdash, vein tam, vein muah, doesn't make a difference whether that ox, and we haven't even gotten into this concept yet, but as a reminder, we will differentiate between the first three gorings of an ox and the fourth goring. That once it's gored three times, it becomes a muad, and therefore you have the extra liability associated with it. And so the first three times you only pay half damage, and the fourth time you're going to pay full damage. And so as a result, that's the. But here in this case, whether the ox is a tam or a muad, mishalim nazik shalim, you're going to have to pay full damages. So that is a clear statement that Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh clearly disagrees with the drasha of Shorei Ehu, of saying that it's only when an ox gores your fellow person's ox and not when it gores the ox of Hektish. So, if that's true, if it's true that Rabbi Akiva agrees with Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Akiva, one second. Maybe once you're telling me that Rabbi Akiva holds about Shimon ben Manasseh, maybe the whole debate about with Rabbi Yishmael is actually about Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. Because and that which we said that Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva are arguing about whether you give the best of the damaged and the worst of the damager, right? That's the case that they're arguing about. So if in fact we use Dawn and Victor, right? Dawn is the damager, Victor is the victim. And so if Dawn has property worth $50 and $100, and Victor only has property worth $50 per square foot, right? We're talking about on a square foot basis. So Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva argue in that case, because Rabbi Yishmael says, well, listen, you're paying the value of the best property of the victim, and so as a result, Dawn can pay his $50 per square foot property. But Rabbi Akiva says, no, you have to pay the best property in that situation. You have Dawn has to pay his $100 per square foot property because that's his best property. So Dilma Dekuli Alma. So that was what we said the argument was about. But Dilma Dekuli Alma de Benizik Shaiminan. Maybe everybody agrees that we focus on Victor, the victim's property, and that we only pay based on if his best property is $50 per square foot, that's all we're going to require the payment. V'hacha v'plugta d'Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh v'Rabbanan kamli. And really, what Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva are arguing about is the argument between Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh and the rabbis. Rabbi Akiva savar Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, Rabbi Yishmael savar Rabbanan. That the rabbis are that Rabbi Yishmael thinks like the rabbis and says that we do not give that we do not say that there's an ability to pay damages if you damage the Beit Hamikdash is property, and that would be Rabbi Yishmael and the rabbi's position. And Rabbi Akiva says no, you do pay. So in second, Im Kain, my lo ba'hakasav. If we were to try to interpret Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva's debate in this manner, we will undermine the beginning of Rabbi Akiva's statement. Because Rabbi Akiva begins to say, by saying, the Torah only comes to tell us. That is a language that certainly suggests a disagreement. V'od, moreover, my kal v'chomer lehektish. In addition, if you wanted to try to give that explanation, there is a problem because Rabbi Akiva also references a kal v'chomer that we are supposed to learn to hektish. But if Rabbi Akiva agrees with Rabbi Yishmael that we're going to be lenient with respect to the payment for damage to unconsecrated property, right? That if he's going to agree that when it comes to Victor's property, that we're going to focus on Victor's top valuation and ignore the valuation of Dawn's top property, well, then how can Rabbi Akiva say that that would certainly apply this leniency to payment of compensation with respect to the Beit HaMikdash? Because the Beit HaMikdash's loss should be dealt with more strictly. And so, as a result, if we were to if we were to say that this was the debate between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael was only about Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, there wouldn't be a kal v'chomer according to that. V'od, and moreover, ha amar Rav Ashi. This is the best of the proofs, so we save it for last. Tanya behedya. We have an explicit baraisa that makes clear that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael are disagreeing about whether you focus on the land of the damagor or the damaged, the victim or the damager. So, because what do we have? Meitiv sadeu, meitiv karmo yisholim. We say that a person needs to pay the best field and the best vineyard. Meitiv sadeu shel nizak, umeitiv karmo shel nizak. So, divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says that it's got to be the best of the damaged parties, meaning again the victim. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Meitiv Sadeo Shel Mazik, Umeitiv Karmo Shel Mazik. No, Rabbi Akiva says we pay the best based on the damager. And so as a result, this is explicit. It's clear that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael argue about this. And so, no, you cannot read an argument only about Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh into the argument of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael. And so now we have come to the conclusion about what, in fact, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael are arguing about. They are arguing about whether or not you use the best or the victim or the best of the damager. Rabbi Yishmael says you use the best of the victim, and Rabbi Akiva says you use the best of the damager. So now that we've got that, we are going to now focus on what about metaltalin? What about movable property? How do we determine the payment in that situation? And Abaye is going to ask a question that says, basically, we know that you have to pay the best when it comes to real property, but when it comes to other property, it seems like you don't need to pay the best. So let's take a look and see the contradiction that that Abaye poses to Rava. Ramile Abaye LaRava. Abaye asks Rava the following contradiction. Ksiv meitav sadeu meitav karmel yishalem. We know that again the pasuk in Shmot Kaf Bet Parak pasuk Dalid says you got to pay the best. Meitav ein midi akrino lo. Clearly you got to pay the best. You can't pay anything else. But Vahatanya, we got another brisa that points to another pasuk. Yashiv, the pasuk in Shmot Kaf Aleph pasuk Lamed Dalid says that you have to return the money if somebody is damaged through a pit. L'rabos shavak kesef. This comes to include something that's worth money, meaning any kind of metaltalin. Vafilu subin, even coarse bran that is not considered a high quality item, and therefore may be as low quality. So we're going to offer 4 different answers to this question. All the first 3 will be rejected, and finally we will come to the 4th and final answer as we conclude our text. So low kasha. No, it's not difficult. We can resolve this debate. Kan midato, kan babal karko. We're talking about 2 different kinds of cases. And Amar Ula, Braid the Rav Eli, Daikanami. You can actually make this indication based on the wording. Dixiv Yishalem, Bal Karko, that he has to pay against his will. That's what I would say. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about a situation where if my cow goes and damages Stan's cow, so then I have 2 choices. I can pay up immediately, and then I can pay the low quality stuff. Or I can pay I can force Stan to take me to court, and then I have to pay the high quality stuff. So that is a potential answer number one. So Amrle Abaye says to Ula, I'm sorry, but that doesn't work because Miksiv Yishulame is it in passive? No, it's not in passive because it does not say it shall be paid. Rather, Yishalem Ksiv Midato Mashma. It implies that the person who did the damage is paying on his own. So you cannot say that the language of Yishalem is talking about when it was is only that voluntary. Um, because again, that the language of Yishalem, where it says Metav Sadeu, Metav Karmo Yishalem, that is talking about where he was forced to pay, because Yishalem there implies even in a voluntary situation. So as a result, we have to offer an alternative explanation. And Abaye comes to the rescue and tries to offer that alternative explanation. So let's take a look. Ella Amar Abaye Kidimar. Rather, it's like Mar. It's like Mar says. Mar refers to Rabba, and we'll see exactly what the story is. And the note here notes that Rabba was Abaye's uncle and his chief mentor, and so that is why he called him Mar, and that's who we're referring to, because it won't actually use, I don't think, Rabba's name during the course of this discussion. But we're going to quote first a brisa, and then we'll quote Rabba's commentary on that brisa. Tanya, we've got a rule. Now, as an introduction to this rule, it's important to note that one is considered poor if one has less than 200 zuz, and when you're below that threshold, one can receive even amounts that are larger depending on your need. So the remarkable thing is you've got 201 zuz, then you are out of luck with respect to, now obviously you'll spend a little bit and then you'll get to be in luck, but you'll be out of luck with respect to getting funds from charity. But if you have 109 zuz and you now have a need because, I don't know, your bed collapsed and now you need to get a replacement bed, and people realize that a bed is an important thing. So and that bed is going to cost $1,000. I'm just making up the numbers. The point is that even though you have more, because even though the amount of the bed, if I were to give it to you, would result in you having more than the 200 zuz, you still get that. You still get it. So as long as you're below the threshold, you get whatever you need. If you're above the threshold, you don't. So now what happens if, Titania, we're going to learn in a brisa, you have different houses, you have real estate, you got fields, you got vineyards. But the problem is but you don't have any buyers who are willing to buy them. So as a result, you may have the 200 zuz that you need, but it's not liquid. It's an illiquid asset. So then we're allowed to give the person up to 50% of his field's value, of his property's value in tzedakah. Vahavi ba mar. Now a second. Now so then on this, Rabba asked the following question: Hey Chidami, what are we talking about? Because this doesn't make too much sense. If in fact the person's land went down in value and everybody's land went down in value, and it's his value went down along with the rest of the world, well then I feel tuvanami lisfile. We should give him whatever he needs. Meaning there is no reason to limit him. If the value of his property went down because there aren't purchasers out there at all, well then, because we're in a recession, well then we need to be kinder to this person, and he is in fact considered an ani, and we should provide him whatever he needs. To hazul de kuli almanami, because everybody's field has gone down in value. So Ella de oker arata de kuli alma vidide vidide ID de oil vinafik azuze zal ra. Oh, so maybe you'll want to say that everybody's property has remained very pricey, and his value went down only because he's trying to find somebody to buy his land. As we turn to Zion Mabet, well then afilu portanamilo lisfule. At the end of the day, this guy's property is worth more than 200 zuz, and the fact that he can't find a buyer for it won't exempt him because he's in a bad sense from a liquidity crunch. He has a liquidity crunch, so that's tough luck on him. His property is really worth it, and he's just going to need to be patient, and it's going to be tough luck on him. But we're not going to give him tzedakah. He's got, you can't claim a liquidity crunch as a basis to get tzedakah. But Amar Mar Allah, but Rabbah, and then Rabbah said, so what is the case that we're talking about? Lo tzricha de biyome Nisan yikara arasa or biyome Tishrei zdal arasa. What we're talking about is the following situation. We're talking about property that is ordinarily going to have higher value in Nisan and lower value in Tishrei. And why is there going to be higher value in Nisan and lower value in Tishrei? Let's take a look at Rashi. Second line on Zion Amabet, top of the page. In the days of Nisan, the value is higher of the land. Near Chorish Otan Biyamot Hakayets, because he will be able to plow the land during the summertime. Vizoran b'tishrei u'b'mar cheshvan, and then he can plant the land in the fall of Tishrei and Mar Cheshvan. Because what's the story? In order for you to be able to plant anything, you need to first plow. You need to ensure that the land has been broken up sufficiently for the seeds to be able to take root. But if you fail to do that, during the summer, you are, and so as a result, if you give the person plenty of time to do that, their property is going to be worth more. But ubiyome Tishrei, zile, but in the days of Tishrei, the value is lower. You can no longer plant the field in that year because you've missed the opportunity to engage in the plowing, because the field will get hard, and as a result, you will not be able to have the sufficient time to plow it. So the kuli alma notre ad nisan umizavne. Regularly, if you're going to ever sell this property, you're going to sell it in Nisan, because that's when the property is going to be worth the most. Vahai, but now this person, he's going to have to sell it now. And so now he's going to be stuck. And so that's the situation. Al palga orche lemezel tfei lav orche lemezel. That's the situation where we'll say, all right, we know basically the property is usually going to go down in value by half. And so, or it won't go down by more than half. And so we'll allow you to take half the value of the property as payment, as tzedakah, because we know that that's what you're really missing. You're missing the opportunity to sell your property in Nisan because you have the liquidity crunch now and you have to sell it now. So we're going to give you tzedakah as if you had all of the property now. And so as a result, that's the situation where we'll give you some flexibility. And so now we come finally to our answer, right? What was our question? Maybe we need to remind ourselves of the question, right? The question is, we have one statement that Abaye quotes that refers to that we have to pay a high price when it comes to, we have to use high value property to pay damaged people. But we also have a statement that allows us to use bran, a low value product, to pay people. And so now we're going to use the analogy of Nisan and Tishrei with respect to tzedakah. We're going to bring that concept over to Nizakin and Nizikin, and then we're going to say that that's what we're talking about here, and that will be the answer. So how do we answer it? Dine be'idis. Really, the person is supposed to get, Victor, the victim, is supposed to get the best land. The Amar le Ihu. But now what happens if Victor tells Dawn, Havli Baininus Tve Porta? Listen, yes, you can give me 100 square meters Yeah, we'll say the damage was $10,000. You can give me 100 square meters of $100 per square foot, $100 per square meter of property, but I actually want you to give me the $50 per square meter property because I'm building myself a house. I want more property, and so I want you to give me a larger amount of your average property instead of your more expensive property. Well, Amar Lay, in that situation, what can Dawn the damager say? Isha kalt kadina. If you want to take, what you're entitled to, shakal kadahashta. You can take the value of the high priced property based on the Tishrei values because that's what you're entitled to. When I have to pay you, I have to pay you based on Tishrei properties because what is the time of the month now? It is Tishrei. Obviously, it's Mercheshvan at the moment, but in any event, you get the idea. The elo, and if not, if you want to try and get the lower quality properties, well, then then I'm going to make you take it based on the valuation of the property in Nissan. You want me to give you something different than what I'm obligated to give you, so as a result, I'm going to give you a lesser amount. I'm gonna give you a worse valuation based on that basis. So when we say that you have to pay the best, that's if the person takes what he's entitled to. But if the person wants something different, that's what we say. That's when we say that the person can get something that's of lower quality. That is a bayit. But Maskiv lo Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. But Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says that doesn't work either because Im Kain Horata Kokhan Shel Nizakin Eitzel Bainis Visivoris. You've made the person worse off than somebody who is collecting average and less than average lands. Dirachmana Amar Memeta. The Torah told us we have to give them the best. Va'at Amrat Mibainus Visiboris Nami Lo, and you're going to tell me that he not only do you just get the average or the inferior, but we're going to give him even a worse valuation? That doesn't make any sense. So, okay, so we're now rejecting this second answer of Abaye, but we're on a mission because we have now we created and rejected one analogy to the poverty case, and we said that we wanted to try to apply the poverty case in another situation. We tried to apply it in Nezikin. That was what Abaye wanted to do, but we've rejected it. So we're going to now say Ella Amar of Acha Bar Yaakov, where Acha Bar Yaakov is going to offer us a second alternative to applying this logic in a different situation. You want to try and compare the poverty case to something? Here's what you should compare it to. That when we're talking about actually the value of a lender, a creditor, a regular creditor in a normal monetary non-damage situation, where what do we say that person gets? Balchov Dine Bevenus, he gets the average quality. The Amrlay Havli Ziburis Tve Porta. And if he were to say, listen, why don't you just give me a little more land of even the lowest quality property? So Amrlay Ishalka de Kadinach. If you want, you can take the average at the Tishrei price. But if you want, Shekol Kadahashta, if you want to take what you're allowed to, the average, then you can take based on now. The low, and if you want to take less, well, then Shekilki Yukra Dilakame. Then you need to take based on the future higher price. So again, Maskif lo Rav Acha Brei de Ravika. Now Rav Acha says, even that doesn't work, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. I'm going to tell you that because Im Kain, Na'alta Delis Bifnei Lovin, you are going to end up locking the doors in front of borrowers. Because here, what is the lender going to say? The lender who doesn't get the property that he wants at a reasonable valuation is going to simply not lend in the future to Amrlay, because the lender is going to say to him, Ilu Havili Zuze, if I keep the money, well then Havi Shakli Kedahashta. I could buy more property at the lower price if I wanted to. But now that I'm going to give you the money, and you're going to try and pay me back, I'm going to have to accept the higher price that is not the future, that is the future price, but not the current price. That doesn't make sense. I will just keep my money. I will not lend you the money. So as a result, that can't be it either. So now we come up with the third possible analogy, and this one will stick. You want to make a comparison? We can compare it to a ksuba of a woman. The bottom line is that when a woman is collecting her ketubah, she gets from the lowest quality land. The amra le ihi, and if she tells her husband, Havli Baininus, Bitsir Porta, listen, give me a little less, but I want the middle quality. Well, in that situation, Amar Allah, he can tell her, Isha called Kadinach Shakol Kedahashta. If you want to take what you're entitled to, the lowest quality, well, then fine. I'm stuck. I have to give you based on the Tishrei value. I'm going to give you the Tishrei value of the lowest quality land. But the Elo, if you want me to go above and beyond what I'm required to do, well, then then you need to accept based on the higher price. So the bottom line is that we've actually come to the right conclusion, which is that if in fact the creditor is asking the debtor to do more than what is required, well, then the debtor can say, listen, if you want me to do more than what's required, you need to compromise. You need to accept something else. But if you are going to insist on what you're entitled to, well, then I'm able to insist on giving you the quality of land that you're entitled to. So whether that's a baininus for the regular creditor or ziburis for a woman collecting from her ketubah, that's what we're going to talk about. But bottom line is, of course, now we've completed this analogy, but we've rejected the second answer. So we need to come up with a new answer. So Mikol Makom Kasha, we still have our question. So now we get back to our answer. So Amar Rava offers a third answer. Kol de Yahivle Mimetevle Tivle. No, maybe what we're saying is the following: that when we have the pasuk that you have to give the best, right? The pasuk that says that what does the pasuk say? Meitav sadehu, meitav karmo yishalim. That pasuk is telling us a concept that you always have to give the best. And what is the yoshiv concept? The yoshiv of that you can give anything. The point is that whatever it is that you give, you need to give the best. So if you're going to give bran, you need to give the best bran. If you're going to give tables, you need to give the best table. If you're going to give property, you need to give the best property. Whatever it is, you need to give the best. Second, though, but that doesn't work because what did the pasuk say? It seems like the best is only limited to a field, and maybe you can't learn from field to other property. So if we finally come to our actual final answer, and with this we conclude for today. Ella ki asa Rav Papa Rav Huna Breda Rav Yoshua Mibe Rav Parshuha. It's we can explain it as follows. Again, this is all said. This is said by Rav Papa and Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, when they came to the yeshiva. They said, "Kol mili meitavu." All objects are considered great. Why? Because if you can't sell it here, you can take it somewhere else and you can sell it. So when it comes to bran, it's a movable property. I can move it from here to a place like like Berkeley, where they are thrilled to have bran. They will love bran, and so as a result, I can move it to a high quality place. And so as a result, that's how we're going to say that we're going to apply the principle. But Levar Ma'ara. But the exclusion is land. I can't do that with land because the lasiv lay mimetab. And so that's where you got to give the best. Because we want somebody to jump at the opportunity to buy it. So what is our answer? And this is in fact how we paskin, that if you give non-real property, you could give anything, because at the end of the day, it's got a value, and that value should be achievable, because even if you have to go somewhere else to get it, if that's what the value is, you're entitled to it. But when it comes to land, we want to facilitate your ability to make it liquid because you were the damaged party. And so we're going to say that you need to give the best. And so that is the halacha with respect to people who are damaged, as opposed to a typical balchov. And so as a result, we've now got that detail. Now, we haven't answered the following question. What's the story about how we determine whether a person's land is high quality or low quality? Are we looking at that particular person? Is it subjective? Or is there an objective valuation that we can determine and we can say, oh, this property, I don't care what other property this person has, this property, it's good property, it's Meitei. But this other property, it's not Meitei. Or do we say, no, we have to look and see what's the full scope of the person's property, and then we'll say, oh, this property is good for this guy. But when you compare it to the other guy, it's terrible property. But we have to focus on this guy. So that's the question that we'll be looking at next time. And so we will pick up with that question, God willing, tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Looking forward to continuing our learning together.